The Wishnows had gone back downstairs, and Sandy had settled into the kitchen to finish his homework when my parents, at the front of the house, turned the living room radio to Walter Winchell. I was in bed with the lights out. I didn't want to hear another panic-stricken word from anyone about Lindbergh, von Ribbentrop, or Danville, Kentucky. And I didn't want to think about my future with Selden. I wanted only to disappear into forgetful sleep and to wake up in the morning somewhere else. But because it was a warm night and the windows were wide open, I couldn't help at the stroke of 9 but be beset from virtually every quarter by the renowned Winchell radio trademark, the clatter of dots and dashes sounding over the telegraph ticker and signaling in Morse code, which Sandy had taught me absolutely nothing. And then, above the ticker's dimming clatter, the red-hot blast of Winchell himself issuing from all houses on the block. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America," followed by the staccato barrage of the long-hoped-for words. At last, the purgative Winchell scourge that would change everything. In normal times, when it was generally within the power of my mother and father to set things right and explain away enough of the unknown to make existence appear to be rational, it wasn't at all like this. But because of the maddening here and now, Winchell, even to me, had become an out-and-out god, and more important, by far, than Adonai. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. American and all the ships at sea. Let's go to the press. Flash. To the glee of the rat-faced Joe Goebbels and his boss, the Berlin Butcher, the targeting of America's Jews by the Lindbergh fascists is officially underway. The phony moniker for Phase 1 of organized Jewish persecution in the land of the free is Homestead 42. Homestead 42 is being aided and abetted by the most respectable of American robber barons. But don't worry, they'll be rewarded in giveaway tax breaks by Lindbergh's Republican henchmen in the pro-greed Congress. Item: whether the Homestead 42 Jews end up in concentration camps a la Hitler's Buchenwald has yet to be decided by Lindbergh's two top swastikers, Vice President Wheeler and Secretary of the Interior Henry Ford. Did I say whether? Pardon my German, I meant when. Item: 225 Jewish families have already been told to vacate the cities of America's Northeast in order to be shipped thousands of miles from family and friends. This first shipment has been kept strategically small in order to escape national attention. Why? Because it marks the beginning of the end for 4.5 million American citizens of Jewish descent. The Jews will be scattered far and wide to wherever Hitlerite America firsters flourish. There, the right-wing saboteurs of democracy, the so-called patriots, and the so-called Christians can be turned against these isolated Jewish families overnight. And who's next, Mr. and Mrs. America, now that the Bill of Rights is no longer the law of the land, and the racial haters are running the show? Who's next under the Wheeler-Ford program? Plan for government-funded persecution. The long-suffering Negroes, the hard-working Italians, the last of the Mohicans. Who else among us is no longer welcome in Adolf Lindbergh's Aryan America? Scoop! This reporter has learned that Homestead 42 was in the works on January 20th, 1941, the day American fascist New Order moved its mob into the White House and was signed into the Iceland sellout between the American Fuhrer and his Nazi partner in crime. Scoop! This reporter has learned that only in return for the gradual relocation and eventual mass imprisonment of America's Jews by the Lindbergh Aryans would Hitler agree to spare the British Isles from a massive armed invasion across the English Channel. The two beloved Fuhrers agreed in Iceland that massacring blue-eyed, blonde-haired, bona fide Aryans didn't make sense unless you definitely had to. And it comes as no surprise that Hitler will most definitely have to if Oswald Mosley's British Fascist Party fails to take dictatorial control of 10 Downing Street before 1944. That's when the master race plans to wrap up the Nazi enslavement of 300 million Russians and raise the swastika over the Moscow Kremlin. And how long will the American people stand for this treachery perpetrated by their elected president? How long will Americans remain asleep while their cherished Constitution is torn to shreds by the fascist fifth column of the Republican right marching under the sign of the cross and the flag? Stay with me, your New York correspondent, Walter Winchell, for my next big bombshell about Lindbergh's treasonous lies. I'll be back in a flash with a flash. 3 things then happened at once. The calming voice of announcer Ben Graer started hawking hand lotion for the program's sponsor. The phone began to ring in the hallway outside my bedroom, as it never did after 9 in the evening, and Sandy exploded. addressing only the radio, but so passionately that my father was instantly roused from his living room chair. He began to shout, "You filthy liar! You lying prick!" "Whoa!" said my father, rushing into the kitchen. "Not in this house! Not that language! That is enough! How can you listen to this crap? What concentration camps? There are no concentration camps. Every word is a lie. Bullshit and more bullshit to get you people to tune in. The whole country knows Winchell's full of hot air. It's only you people who don't." "And which people exactly is that?" I heard my father say. "I lived in Kentucky. Kentucky is one of the 48 states. Human beings live there like they do everywhere else. It's not a concentration camp. This guy makes millions selling his shitty hand lotion, and you people believe him." "I told you already about the dirty words, and now I'm telling you about this you people business. You people one more time, son, and I am going to ask you to leave this house. If you want to go live in Kentucky instead of here, I'll drive you down to Penn Station and you can catch the next train out. Because I know very well what you people means, and so do you. So does everyone. Don't you use those two words in this house ever again." "Well, in my opinion, Walter Winchell is full of it." "Fine," he said. "That is your opinion, and you are entitled to it. But other Americans hold a different opinion. It so happens that millions of Americans can listen to Walter Winchell every single Sunday night, and they are not just what you and your brilliant aunt call you people. His program is still the highest-rated news show on the air. Franklin Roosevelt confided to Walter Winchell things he would never tell another newspaperman, and listen to me, will you? These are facts." "But I can't listen to you. How can I listen to you when you tell me about millions of people? Millions of people are nothing but idiots." Meanwhile, my mother had answered the phone in the hall, and from my bed I could hear her speaking as well. "Yes," she said. "Yes, of course they had Winchell on. Yes, it was terrible. It was worse than they thought. But at least now it was out in the open. Yes, Herman would call as soon as the Winchell show was over." 4 consecutive times she had this conversation, but when the phone rang a 5th time, she didn't jump to answer, even though the caller had to have been another of their friends shaken by Winchell's rapid-fire disclosures. She didn't, because the commercial was finished, and she and my father were back beside the radio in the living room, and Sandy was now in the bedroom, where I pretended to be asleep while he got himself ready for bed by the nightlight. The small lamp with the pump handle switch that he had made from scratch in shop class, back when he was merely an artistic boy, engrossed by what he could fashion with his own skillful hands, and blessedly uncontaminated by ideological battling. And we will pause there.